all going direct to almost heaven and not going all direct the other way. Thank you.
Our first question, and you'll have 1 minute to answer, will come from Keith Thompson of WJLS Radio.
Morning, Jay. Thank you very much. Mr. Goodwin, in your opening statement, you mentioned darkness returning and, amongst other things, a job crisis. What are your plans as governor to help out the working people in the state of West Virginia?
Well, obviously, Keith, we have to diversify our economy. We didn't get into this mess overnight, and we're not going to get out of it overnight either. The jobs crisis is real. There's no question about it. But what I believe that we can do is we can put our people, our unemployed mountaineers, like I said, back to work, fixing our bridges, fixing our infrastructure, and building a place that West Virginians can be proud of and West Virginians can use to move into the future.
Our next question is from Damon Kane of the Register Herald.
Yes, Mr. Goodwin, how do you go about fixing our education system with specific reference to the school district of Fayette County, where they have school buildings falling down, a number of teacher positions vacant, and communities that can't seem to work together?
Well, obviously, we have to approach education not from the curriculum side or the testing side, but we've got to get right where the rubber meets the road, and that's in our classrooms, and that's in our schools, and that's with our teachers. You're right, we can't afford to have crumbling buildings literally falling down around our students. You know, the folks that I've talked to in Fayette County, young people who have moved there for a cool place to be, they start to think about moving out when they have their kids going to school. We can't have that happen. The state needs to come in and actually work with the community to find a middle ground between 5 high schools and 1 high school. There is a middle ground there, obviously, and we can do it and we can solve it.
Our next question, Tim Carrico, anchor at WVNS 59 News.
Mr. Goodwin, West Virginia has joined a small group of states that allow constitutional carry. Should we allow citizens to carry concealed without any training whatsoever? And if so, do you believe that's a good idea?
Well, I come from a law enforcement background. I've spent the last 15 years with law enforcement officers, and I stand with our law enforcement officers who have said very clearly that that isn't a good idea. That, it just makes sense to have some level of training and responsibility. I mean, I have my concealed carry permit. My wife has it. It wasn't hard to obtain, and it was just the responsible thing to do. We need to return to that here in West Virginia, and I think easily 85% of West Virginians agree with me on that.
Thank you, Mr. Goodwin. Let's give him a round of applause. Thank you for being with us this morning. And next up, we'll hear 4 minutes from Governor candidate Jeff Kessler. Welcome, Mr. Kessler.
Good morning. I'm Jeff Kessler. I want to be your next governor. I'm not a storyteller, and I sure aren't a very good poem teller, but I am a problem fixer. And I'm going to tell you a little bit about that. I live up in the northern panhandle, grew up and lived in a little town called McMecken. My grandpap was a Russian immigrant, worked in a coal mine up there. I'm proud to say Marshall County remains the leading coal-producing county in the state. But I've seen the difficulties that coals have. I live in a little town called Glendale, hometown of Brad Paisley. Some of you may have heard of him. He's a little hometown boy that did real good. I'm a lawyer by trade. I've been practicing law since 1981. Worked my way through college at West Liberty State University. I'm an attorney. I have practice in Moundsville. I have about 12 people working for me. I got 5 kids, 3 dogs and a cat. My kids are 26, 22, 10, 7, and 2. So I can assure you I'll be working till the day I die, working for you. I'm the only candidate, I assure you, that still's got them in diapers. I assure you that. But let me tell you what I told you about being a problem fixer. I've been in the Senate since 1997. I am the only candidate running for governor that's ever fixed a problem working in the confines of state government. When there was a medical malpractice crisis in this state in 2003, we passed legislation and I fixed it. When there was a workers' compensation crisis, $4 billion in debt in this state, I was part of the team that fixed it. When they were blasting the hillsides off in southern West Virginia and the people were asking for help and relief, what can we do for blasting damage? I was part of the team that fixed it. When our unemployment fund was going broke, we needed a solution. I was the person, the judiciary chairman, who fixed it. I'm the only person in this state running for governor that's ever fixed a problem. We are at a crisis in this state. We're $270 million in debt. We lead the nation in everything bad. Highest unemployment, lowest per capita income, highest age per capita, worst health outcomes. We need somebody to fix it, and I will. And I'll tell you how you do that. You do it by investing in people, investing in infrastructure. You cannot cut your way out of this mess we're in. And that's all I see happening down there, particularly under the new leadership, is cut, 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 cut. I've been in there for 19 years. It's my first year we ever left town without a budget, except during the stimulus. And we had more money coming from Washington than we knew what to do with. Our biggest problems we have in this state is low workforce participation. We have a significant substance abuse problem, and we also have a lack of infrastructure with our roads, bridges, and broadband. I'm going to fix all of them. How you do that? We're going to raise some revenue. Anybody in this state running for governor that thinks you are going to fix the problems we have without investing in people and infrastructure is not telling you the truth. We're going to raise some revenue and fix it. Gaston Caperton did. When he got in, he had to raise $300 million quick, and he did. We got over that mess, and we've worked our way out of it, and that's what we need to do. And that's the cold, hard truth, and that's what we're going to do. And I can tell you, when I say talk about investing in people, I'm going to create a program, raise some revenue with the tobacco tax, put $10, $15 million. Every single kid graduates from school, high school is going to have an opportunity to have three-year assisted community college or trade school or technical school, similar to what they did in Tennessee with a Tennessee Promise program that raised the education attainment level. Folks want to go and start businesses where they have a skilled, trained, educated, sober workforce. And how do you do that? You make sure your kids and your folks have a skill, a trade, and an education. If we don't invest in them, we don't have a chance. Secondly, substance abuse. Anybody in here think we got a substance abuse problem in this state? Raise your hand. All right, we do. My son, oldest son, 22 years old, got addicted to painkillers. I took him to the hospital, took him to the emergency room. I said, Mr. Kessler, we don't have anywhere to treat him. Why? There's no facility. I will invest in substance abuse treatment centers in this state.
Our first question for Mr. Kessler will come from Dave Kirby of WWNR.
I think sometimes voters feel neglected. They feel like we vote for someone, put them in office, and then they don't listen. We are controlled anymore by what seems to be special interest groups and lobbyists. Is the system working? Does it need to be fixed?
Absolutely. There's too much dark money in it. Too much dark money in politics, and if you're not a billionaire or millionaire, they say you don't got a chance. I'm the only guy running for, well, one of the only guys running for governor who doesn't have his own plane. But I assure you, I get here mile by mile, handshake by handshake, door by door. And I assure you, when you reach out to people, and as your governor, I will have a weekly Skype fireside chat with the people of this state, listening to their problems. I don't have all the answers. I need solutions working with the people of this state. I need input from a diverse group of folks from throughout the state who will tell me what they think needs to be done. And that's the way you do it, by staying in touch with people.
Our next question from Keith Thompson of WJLS.
Good morning, Mr. Kessler. For a number of years, there's been a lot of talk. People want to see the tolls eliminated on the West Virginia Turnpike. This is a two-part question. Is this something that, as governor, A, you would be in favor of or against, and why? And secondly, if in favor, how would then you finance the upkeep of the turnpike?
Yes. You know why? Because we put those tolls on 20, 30 years ago. We made a promise to the people in this part of the state. When that thing was paid off, the tolls would come off. Now, that's about ready to happen, isn't it? Now, who's ever going to believe government that every time we tell them you're going to do something, you don't do it? That's why we took the severance tax off coal and gas that were paid off the workers' comp debt last year. People said, how can you do away with that money? You need it. Well, because we promised them we would. If people are going to believe in their government, you've got to do what you tell them you're going to do. And then there are other ways. We need to raise some revenue. In Virginia, what they do, they put a general sales tax, I think 1% to pay for the roads throughout the state. This shouldn't be the only area of the state that has to pay to drive on a decent road.
Thank you, Mr. Kessler. And our next question is from Damon Kane of the Register Herald.
Senator Kessler, when you talk and when candidates talk about increased revenue, we're talking about new or adding to the taxes that we currently assess folks. So speak specifically into what taxes you would raise. What we've heard this legislative session is cigarette taxes and sales tax, and those tend to hit disproportionately the poor among our society. Is there a way to spread out that tax burden?
Yes, cigarette tax is easy because that raises to anywhere between 100 and 130 million bucks, and we are the lowest per capita if you look around our surrounding states, with most of our competing states. Sans Virginia, we're not going to get there. But you know what? You got that. You got some alcohol taxes, and there's some tax loopholes with business tax cuts. You know, we can look at some increases in the severance tax, particularly the ethane that's being produced in our state. It's now being shipped out of state to Germany, to Louisiana, to Canada, to create jobs there. Now, you know, we're going to give tax breaks to companies who come here, invest here, produce a product, and then ship it elsewhere, then we need to tax it. I can't make them build that cracker here, but I can tax them on the ethane and that goes out of the state, and then when it comes back, if they do build that cracker here, I'll give them a credit back against it. I'll incentivize it. But if they're just, you know, that's an easy one for me. If we're giving them tax breaks to create a product that they're going to ship out of state, maybe we ought to raise that tax on it, and we could. That's a huge source of opportunity for wealth for this state. Thank you.
Thank you, Mr. Kessler. Let's give all the gubernatorial candidates a round of applause. We want to remind our radio audience that you're listening to Meet the Candidates from the Beckley-Raleigh County Convention Center on WWNR, Beckley, and that's on 620 AM and 101.1 FM. And now we want to move to the Supreme Court race, and each candidate will have 4 minutes to speak. We won't be asking questions of the candidates, but we do want to begin with the incumbent Supreme Court Justice Brent Benjamin. Mr. Benjamin, welcome.
Well, thank you for the invitation. Good morning, everyone. It is a pleasure to be here. 12 years ago, when I ran for the Supreme Court, I felt the court was going in the wrong direction. And the people of the state entrusted me with a seat on the court. And today, we have a court that is fair, is stable, is predictable, and independent. And that's what this state needs to move forward. We are taking our Supreme Court and our court system in the right direction. And when I say right direction, I don't mean just in making certain that when people come before the courts, they know that the rule of law is going to apply. That's a very important, and that is the core mission of our courts. But our courts do very many things other than that are very important to our communities. I don't need to tell the people of southern West Virginia, in particular the people of Raleigh County, the drug problem is something that is hurting our state badly. It's hurting our county badly. While I've been on the Supreme Court, I've helped to initiate, to develop, and to expand special programs such as drug courts in our state, programs I'm very proud of. They are a response that judges have seen coming into the courtrooms to problems that we can fix as judges, and we've been able to do that. 12 years ago, we did not have these special programs like drug courts. Today we do. And today, I'm happy to say, we've had almost 1,400 people graduate from our drug court programs. And why is that important? Because sometimes we do have to incarcerate the problem, but in many cases for nonviolent first-time offenders, we can turn around their lives if they want to work with us. And the key issue is sobriety, getting jobs, and you know what? If we incarcerate, the recidivism is 80%. If we go through drug courts, our recidivism is 10%. And that saves lives, it makes our community safer, and it saves taxpayers $25 million a year. That's good government. We've done other great programs. The business court division of the court has allowed court businesses in business-to-business litigation to litigate more efficiently, faster, in less than a year in most cases, and is now such a successful program that Virginia has now asked us for our help in getting their program started. That's a program that I initiated in 2008 when I went to Delaware with our court administrator to learn from them. Access to justice, no one should be above the law, no one should be below it either. In 2009, I initiated our Access to Justice program, and today, access is now easier for people in our courts. Being a justice means being a person who I believe follows the rule of law, who is not inclined to legislate from the bench. My record shows I'm the least likely on our court to engage in any type of new law. I defer to the legislature. That is who I am. But in addition to that side, I believe judges can do important things such as drug courts and veterans courts. And in my next term, that is what I pledge to you, to continue to be a fair judge, a hardworking judge, but also to get out to the communities and to listen, because we only got these programs because we came out and listened to you and learned from you as to what you need in your court system. I'm Brent Benjamin. I'm running for re-election to the West Virginia Supreme Court. And I ask for your vote, and I ask for your support. The judges' election on May 10th is the general election for the judges and the judicial officers of our state. So it's very, very important that we get the word out. The judges are being elected in May, not in November. Thank you.
Thank you, Mr. Benjamin. Next up, Wayne King, who is a candidate for the Supreme Court. Welcome, Mr. King.
Thank you very much. I'm Wayne King. I'm from Walbach, West Virginia, in Clayton County. My first 34, I-79. I've been practicing law there for 45 years. Started out as a prosecuting attorney, family law master, and child advocate, and really just $45 or $65 an hour for court appointments. I've got to take just about everything that walks through the door. I'll tell you that right now. And it's an honor just to be here. First of all, with the Supreme Court candidates and our other candidates here at the front table. You know, I like coming to Raleigh County because Raleigh County has two of the best natural resources that Clay County ever had. One of them is Julie Asbury Jr., and the other is your magistrate, Richard Jones. I know it's dusty, but you all done stole them away from us. We'd like to have him back someday. I think it's important that you know who I am, and I want you to know my best asset. My beautiful wife back there. And that's the best decision I ever made in my life right there. And that's the kind of decisions I'll make during my only term on the Supreme Court appeals. I will not run for re-election after I win this term. I believe that we have to change the way we elect the judges with regard to the nonpartisan, because technically 21% of the population could elect a justice for 12 years. And that's not correct. I've been representing defendants, plaintiffs. I was down at Judge Kirkpatrick's court 10 days ago on a summary proceeding here. I'm still there every day for the clients who want to come in, go to criminal court. And it's just a pleasure. I love practicing law. I think I have a lot of core common sense experience to bring to the court. I'm not running to be congenial, to be liked by the other justices. I'm not running to be liked by my opponents. I know they're not voting for me. So I'm running to go down there and do the best job I can do for the state of West Virginia, to be fair to the people that come before the court. That's my main objective. What you hear about is integrity on the court and everything else. I will not settle any case where a member of my family might profit one penny. I think we have to do something about the recusal issue. I never heard Justice Benjamin during his first term, and I hope only term, say anything about that. I think that possibly we should even look at not allowing Supreme Court justices to run for re-election until a election cycle for 2 years is played out. You realize if you re-elect someone, that's 24 years that you have their thoughts dictating the law of the state of West Virginia. I don't think that's right. I'm kind of plain talking and outspoken. I guess I learned that with fighting in court there in Clay County, West Virginia, and other courts in West Virginia. I've appeared at every court Not much in federal court. I don't really like the federal court system, but I love the circuit court system. We have the best jury system in America. We have the best circuit court system in West Virginia. And when I'm elected to the Supreme Court, we'll have the best Supreme Court in the United States of America. Thank you very much.
Thank you, Mr. King. The next candidate for the Supreme Court is Darrell McGraw. Welcome, Mr. McGraw.
Thank you very much. I am Darrell McGraw, and depending upon how you might remember it, I'm from Tipple, West Virginia, or McGraw's Tipple, West Virginia, or McGraw's, West Virginia, which is a village not far from Beckley, and this was the urban destination for folks who lived in Tipple by the way of Cross Fork and Bolton, Glen, and through Fairdale and on through Eccles and Beckley. In Tipple, we had a philosophy that was pretty much broadly shared in the community, that we had a duty to keep the faith. And our duty to keep the faith was to act for the faith in good works and doing things that will make life better for people and for our community. And so this is the way I started out to the world with that philosophy. From the United States Army to West Virginia University to working in the governor's office with the native of Beckley, Governor Smith, I began my career. I served you and on the West Virginia Supreme Court for 12 years. During that 12 years, on a team that involved folks who had been newly elected at the same time I was elected, we were able to take a court which is a lower Midland court, unnoted in America for much of anything beyond being on the list of Supreme Courts, and we were able to take that court, and we were able to bring that court to a level of production that resulted in being recognized nationally as a progressive state Supreme Court. That was an accomplishment that made West Virginia at the top of the list. After I served at that Supreme Court, I went to work as Attorney General, and in my term as Attorney General, we worked with a family of folks that worked also as a team in the Consumer Protection Division to proceed against wrongdoers who had taken advantage of West Virginians and our state. As a consequence of that endeavor, we were able to return to the people of the state and the state itself a total of $2 million. I always get, I slip on this, $2 billion. Once I said $20 million, that's way out of reach. It's $2 billion that we were able to return to the state through the work product of the Attorney General's office. Now, what we might wonder, did that return go to? And as we have heard people talk today, I've heard them talk about what that was. The doctor's insurance program was initiated and financed by return from the Attorney General's office. The workers' comp program was shored up by the Attorney General's work product. The teachers' retirement system was the gift or was the recipient of $800 million from the Attorney General's work product. I could go on through the drug programs and all of it, but finally let me say that through that work, I received an award from West Virginia University in the commencement program last year that cited the work that I had done there for 20 years, and I was given a really bell-ringing award, the highest award of the law school. Thank you very much.
Thank you, Mr. McGraw. Thank you. The next candidate for the Supreme Court is Beth Walker. Welcome, Ms. Walker.
Thank you, and good morning, everyone. Thanks so much for the opportunity to be here and talk about this really important race for the future of West Virginia. My name is Beth Walker, and I've been practicing law in West Virginia for 26 years, in courts all over the state. I currently live in Morgantown, and I'm one of the lawyers who represent WVU hospitals. So I represent Ruby Memorial and our other hospitals all around the northern part of West Virginia. I ran for Supreme Court in 2008 and came within 0.6% of being successful. But I never gave up on my opportunity to lead in West Virginia, and I remain concerned about our courts in West Virginia. The Institute for Legal Reform did a national survey recently that surveyed lawyers from all across the country, 800 actually, who handle cases in courts all over, and asked those folks to rate the state courts on issues such as judicial fairness, judicial competence, whether laws about lawsuits are enforced or not. And that survey most recently was released in September, and unfortunately, this is all too common for us, but we cannot let it become common, is we were ranked 50th in that survey. That concerns me as a lawyer, and that concerns me as a citizen. And so I'm excited about the fact that this race is nonpartisan, and I decided to run again. I think that our judges have to be fair and impartial and decide cases based on the rule of law. I'm a conservative, so I think that politics have no place at all in our court. I think that those cases have to be decided regardless of who the parties are, regardless of where you're from in West Virginia, just fairly and impartially and based on the rule of law. We'll be electing a Supreme Court justice only 26 days from today, on May 10th. The primary is our general election, so there won't be another election in November. We won't be back on the ballot. This is our general election. And that Supreme Court justice will serve a term of 12 years, beginning in January. Another way to look at that term is that the children who are in kindergarten right now will be seniors in high school when the term of this Supreme Court justice concludes. So we're making a very important decision about the future of West Virginia. I've been working very hard for the last 10 months, traveling all around the state, talking to voters, listening to concerns, and letting folks know what my vision of the Supreme Court ought to be. And I'm very proud and humbled, actually, to have the endorsement of Senator Shelley Moore Capito, Congressman Jenkins, the West Virginia Chamber of Commerce, the West Virginia Business and Industry Council, the West Virginia Coal Association, and a number of other organizations. They're all listed on our website at walkerforsupremeccourt.com. And the reason I mention those is those organizations and individuals don't think I should decide cases in a particular way. They just trust my view that decisions have to be fair and impartial and based on the rule of law. West Virginia has tremendous challenges. We talked about many of them this morning. We have a job crisis. We have an economy that is challenged based in large part, as we know in this part of the state, on the decimation of the coal industry. We have a drug epidemic that threatens our communities, our children, our churches, and our very future in West Virginia. I'd like to make a difference as a Supreme Court justice. I'd like to keep our court from being an impediment to growth and prosperity. I don't want us to be considered 50th in the areas of judicial competence and judicial fairness. I see a better future for West Virginia. I see a better future for our Supreme Court of Appeals. I would be very honored to have your vote on May 10th, and I appreciate the opportunity to be here. Thank you.
Thank you, Ms. Walker. And our final candidate for the Supreme Court we want to hear from this morning is William Wooten. Well, welcome, Mr. Wooten.
Thank you very much, Dave. I am Bill Wooten. I'm one of 5 lawyers seeking the position of Justice of the Supreme Court of Appeals. Of the 5 lawyers running, I'm the only one who lives south of Route 60. As most of you know, I am a Beckley lawyer. I was raised in Beckley. I have spent my professional life in Beckley. My children all, fortunately, have found homes and jobs here in Beckley. So we're really tied to this community. I went to law school in Morgantown, and upon graduation, my first job was a law clerk to the Honorable John A. Fields, Jr. He was the judge of the United States Circuit Court of Appeals for the Fourth Circuit. He's an outstanding jurist and an outstanding man. He's been a role model for me all of my life. And with my work for Judge Field, I gained some first-hand experience in the workings of the appellate court system. I worked briefly in Charleston after graduation, but then returned to my hometown of Beckley. I came here initially to work in the prosecuting attorney's office. While there, I gained some really significant trial experience. One case that stands out in my memory, Beckley police officer David Lilly was murdered by a man named Ron Williams. I tried and convicted Mr. Williams. He was sentenced to Moundsville for life. He escaped from Moundsville. And when he escaped, he murdered off-duty West Virginia State Policeman Philip Kessler. I think that those two murders make him probably West Virginia's most notorious living criminal. Mr. Williams went on to Arizona, where he committed additional homicides. He's now serving 2 life sentences in the West Virginia State Penitentiary. If he's ever released, he goes to Arizona, where he's only sentenced to death. Public service has been a major part of my life. I'm a retired colonel from the West Virginia Army National Guard. Been involved in numerous community activities. For instance, I'm still a member of the Army Board that governs this facility. I was elected to the legislature. When I was elected, I resigned from the prosecutor's office and commenced a private practice of law. I served a number of years in the state legislature. I was majority leader in the House of Delegates. I served in the state Senate and was chairman of the Senate Judiciary Committee for 10 years. I gained a lot of insight into public policy issues through that legislative service that I think will be invaluable as a Supreme Court judge. As a lawyer practicing in Beckley, I'm what I would call a typical small-town lawyer. I represent all sorts of people and businesses in all sorts of cases. I think I have probably been involved in every type of case you could have in this state, and I know that I have practiced in every type of court that we have in this state. I think that private practice experience will be invaluable as a Supreme Court justice. In law school, I did well. I was the editor-in-chief of the Law Review, which is a national publication that's relied upon by various jurisdictions throughout the country, and graduated in the top of my class. Those are the qualifications I have that I submit for your consideration. As other candidates have mentioned, this for the first time is a nonpartisan election of all judicial candidates in West Virginia. There will be no magistrates, family court judges, circuit court judges, and no Supreme Court justice on the ballot in November. Thank you. It worked out perfectly. I've run out of things to say. I offer my qualifications for your consideration. I would sincerely appreciate your vote and your support. Thank you.
Thank you, Mr. Wooten, and our thanks to all the Supreme Court candidates. Let's give them one more round of applause, folks. We remind our radio audience that you're listening to Meet the Candidates at the Beckley-Raleigh County Convention Center on WWNR Beckley. That's 620 AM and 101.1 FM. Now we want to move to the County Commission, and we're going to go back to our distinguished media panel. And we will begin with our first question from Tim Carrico of WVNS 59 News. And this is for County Commission candidate Louis Begovich. And by the way, each candidate will get 2 questions, and you'll have 1 minute to answer each question. So, Mr. Begovich, your question will come from Tim Carrico. Tim?
All right, Mr. Begovich, good morning. We've all experienced a decline here in Raleigh County Do you have any ideas that would help young people with professional training here in our area stay in this area?
Yes, first of all, I'd like to say my brother personally is that a member of a labor organization, Officers Local 1911 here in Baker, West Virginia. One thing we do, and I sit on our apprenticeship board, one thing we do is bring in young kids and old adults to bring them into our organization, into our apprenticeship program. It's a 4-year program that we offer to the people, and it's a paid-free education. You work as you learn. You get to work with our contractors. You get a steady income from them. Plus, you also work with go to school. We've got 4 training centers in West Virginia. So I think what we need to do between that and working with New River Community College and the other colleges, what we need to do is work with them to try to create more opportunities in the trade industry. Right now, we're one of the shortest people in the trade industries right now. We've got 1,000 miners laid off, and I think we need to start looking at in the trade.
Our next question for Mr. Begovich is from Dave Kirby of WWNR.
It's pretty easy for the county commission to know what's going on and what's taking place in Beckley. But what about some of the other areas of the county, some of the smaller towns and rural areas? How do you keep tabs on what's going on there and how to help those people?
I work in, like I said, I'm a member of the Republic of Local 1911. I've got 9 county areas that I represent. So I'm in all the counties that I represent. So I'm always in there in the first place. I'm working, whether it's in McDowell County, Summers County, Greenbrier County. We're always working with people in those areas, in the small towns, and in the small towns in our area. I'm willing to do everything I can. I'm willing to give 100% of my time, my effort, to try to accomplish what we need to do. We've heard all these candidates speak wonderfully about our infrastructure and different things the jobs we need. And I'm willing to work with that. I'm willing to help participate as a union member and as the county commissioner. I'm willing to work and do whatever I can in those small areas.
Thank you, Mr. Begovich. That's Louis Begovich running for County Commission. We'd like to welcome our incumbent County Commissioner, Dave Tolliver, and he will get a question from Keith Thompson of WJLS.
Thank you, Jay. Good morning, Mr. Tolliver. As an incumbent, you know the problems that Raleigh County has been through for the last few years. With the area being pretty much a hub for business in southern West Virginia, what will you do as commissioner if you're elected again to make sure that Raleigh County has the necessary funding in which to operate?
What we've done, when I say we, in the last 3 years, Commissioner Epling and Commissioner White, we have paid extra on the judicial building here in Beckley. And happy to say in December we paid this judicial building off. It is a taxpayer's building now. We saved approximately $250,000 in interest. Also on the, I'd like to thank Judge Burnside for taking the initiative to start the drug court. Last month, our drug bill, our jail bill was $238,000 for 1 month. And obviously, with the drug court that they have established, hopefully with the new day reporting system that we have started here in Raleigh County, it has already showed significant savings, the drug court and the day reporting. So with the day reporting and drug court, we're hoping that bill will come down. We just cannot continue to pay over $230,000 each month for jail inmates.
Our next question for Commissioner Tolliver is from Damon Kane of the Register-Herald.
Yeah, good morning. Because Beckley and Raleigh County is the hub of the economic engine of this neck of the woods, many other states around the state have passed non-discriminatory ordinances that include specific protections for gay, lesbian, bisexual, and transgender citizens. Is that something that the county should consider?
Right now, we have not been approached by either one of those.
Would you consider it?
I would consider it. I don't believe there's discrimination against anyone, gender or whatever. Now, The problem that you've seen on TV in the last few days is, the gender where transit has the authority to use either bathroom. I am not for that. I think a person who was born a male would use a male bathroom, and likewise for a female. But as far as discrimination against anyone, absolutely not. But I think there's a line that you draw right there as far as transit, for the man using a ladies' restroom. I am not for that.
Thank you. Thank you, Mr. Tolliver and Mr. Begovich, running for County Commission. Next up, we want to move to Circuit Court. Each candidate will have 2 minutes to speak, and we have two divisions, Division 3 and Division 4. And we want to begin with incumbent Judge Robert Burnside from Division 3 and say welcome and good morning to you.
Good morning. In listening to the other candidates' remarks this morning, I've heard, and you've heard, references to the future. And that's what this is about. For your judicial candidates is to select the judges who will serve Raleigh County for the next 8 years of our future. The lessons that we learn in our experience guide us to the future. And so having experience is the best means of planning what the future might, for dealing with what the future might bring to us. Another lesson of experience is that a person's past performance is the best indicator of his future performance. In my case, you don't have to wonder about that. I have served as circuit judge for 27 years in Raleigh County. Judges work in the public, out front where you can see us and watch us and listen to us as we work, except for the few cases that are by legislation private. And so in those years, I have presided over hundreds, perhaps, of civil and criminal cases and various other proceedings that are presented to the court out in public view. And so the people of Raleigh County know already what kind of judge I will be, because you know already what kind of judge I have been, what kind of judge I am now. The past performance is the best indicator of the future performance that I will give to you. One of the things we must plan for in the future, there are many things that are unknown that will come to us that we don't expect. But what we do know, as has been mentioned so many times, is that our drug problem has gotten worse and worse. All right, I heard the bell. I will continue working with that. I'm proud to have started that. Our experience is how we plan for that. And the experience that I have on the court for these many years is what qualifies me, I hope you think, for re-election as your circuit judge in the 3rd Division of the Circuit Court of Raleigh County. Thank you.
Thank you, Judge Burnside. Also running in Division 3 is Michael Frobel. Welcome, Mr. Frobel.
Thank you. My name is Michael Frobel, and I'm the only candidate that's running against a sitting judge, Judge Burnside. In 1982, I actually was Assistant Attorney General, and I practiced before Justice McGraw when he was a justice. I came in 1986, and I brought the Public Defender Office to Raleigh County. Then I became partners with Bill Wooten and John Wooten. I've worked with Justice Benjamin. I've been on the Lawyers Impaired Committee since 1984. I'm a recovering alcoholic, and I know the drug problem. I helped establish the Lawyers Impaired Committee with the help of Justice Benjamin, and we've made various strides in that area. The drug court that Justice Benjamin was talking about 12 years ago should have been here 6 years ago, but there was resistance at that time. It's here now. And I believe that I would be the ideal candidate to run that court. I've been endorsed by the Federal Order of Police. I've been up on Harper Road. I've been the general counsel for the Citizen Conservation Corps since 1995 with the various programs. I've relocated my office up on Harper Road. I am a member of the Chamber of Commerce, proud of that. I've been an attorney since 1982, and I believe that I could bring my experience, both my life experience and my trial experience and experience as an attorney, to give fresh perspective and new direction. Judge Burnside has been there for 27 years, and I would like the opportunity to be the judge for Raleigh County. And I would ask that you consider my qualifications. You consider, because I believe that we have to work not only in the judicial system within that, but we've got to work out in the community, because that's what it's about. As Judge Burnside and the justices say, we have to be out in the communities because fairness, communities, and children matter. So I would ask for your consideration and vote on May 10th.
Thank you, Mr. Frobel. Next up, we're going to move to Division 4, and there's several candidates running in that division. And we want to welcome first James Brown, who's running for judge in Division 4.
Good morning. I'm Jim Brown, and I'm a candidate for judge in the Circuit Court of Raleigh County in the 4th Division. First, I'd like to thank the Chamber and thank the sponsors for having this event. It's truly a wonderful affair. Secondly, I'd like to tell you that I'm running for this position because I believe that I have the ability, the experience, and the integrity to be a good judge for the people of Raleigh County, West Virginia. I graduated from West Virginia University College of Law, and while I was there, I was on the student board of editors of the West Virginia Law Review. And after graduating from law school, I went to Charleston, and like Bill Wooten, I clerked for Judge John A. Field, Jr. In fact, I preceded Bill Wooten by 1 year. And I'd echo the comments that Bill Wooten made about Judge Field. He was a wonderful judge and a wonderful man. After leaving that position, I moved to Beckley, where I have practiced law for over 40 years, trying cases in the courts of Raleigh County and the courts of the other counties in southern West Virginia.